Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Field, a Mayford podcast where we talk with educators in the field to hear about their perspectives and experiences. My goal and the goal of this podcast is to share the voices of leaders in the field of education. My name is Jake Burson, Advocacy Chair for Mayford, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Neutzling. Welcome, Dr. Neutzling.
Thank you, Jake. Happy to be here.
So, Misty Neutzling recently assumed the role of Associate Dean for the College of Education and Health Sciences at Bridgewater State University. Prior to this, she served for 12 years as a professor of physical education, teacher education at Bridgewater State University, and was the university's faculty fellow for artificial intelligence. She has conducted extensive research on technology integration and the use of artificial intelligence in pedagogy. Dr. Neutzling believes that when utilized properly, artificial intelligence can play a valuable role in enhancing teaching and learning in physical education. Dr. Neutzling, it's so exciting to be in this space with you, and thank you so much for saying yes to the podcast. Before we get started, what's making you smile these days?
I love that you start our conversation with this question. I love the human component of this. So, full disclosure, before I answer that, because I'll be talking a lot about AI today, I thought it was appropriate to ask ChatGPT, who I refer to as Chatster, how
Ah,
often should a person smile in one day to increase endorphins? So, do you want to take a guess? How many times
I,
someone should smile in a day?
I'm to increase endorphins. That's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 50. Is that low?
Oh, wow. No, you're overachieving.
Oh, I'm over. Okay, well, I mean, what's the answer? I was too high, huh?
You were too high.
Uh,
So it's according to ChatGPT, it's 15 to 20
oh,
genuine smiles per day. That
oh,
lasts at least a few seconds. So, and when combined with laughter, like what we just did,
uh-huh.
you have a stronger effect of endorphin release. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Fun
So, I mean,
fact. Fun
it is a
fact.
fun fact. Thanks, ChatGPT. I don't know.
What?
A lot of things have made me smile today. Just being around students, being around faculty, and smiling and being a part of this podcast tonight. So,
Well,
yeah,
pleasure to have you. So
yeah.
let's dive right in. Tell us more about who you are and how you started your education journey.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Dr. Misty Neutzling, and as you mentioned in your intro, I am currently the Associate Dean for the College of Education and Health Sciences at Bridgewater State University. But prior to this role, for the past 12 years, I was a professor for the Physical Education Teacher Education Licensure
Mhm.
program here at Bridgewater State University. And prior to that, I was a high school physical education teacher and volleyball coach at a very large high school back in Florida, where I'm from. My largest class size, I would always tell my students this, that my largest class size, my roster was 52 students.
Wow.
So if you really want to go and talk about classroom management, I was really thrown into learning how to do that pretty quickly.
52 students. Wow, that's
It,
that's like a double class here, right? A single class.
yes.
Huh.
Yeah, so it came with a lot of challenges. And in Florida, the rule is if it hit a certain temperature, like a certain degree,
Mhm.
if it's too hot outside or if it's raining, we all would have to be in the gymnasium. So that was like all the time in Florida where it was too hot and or rainy. So it was
Mm.
a gym full of hundreds of students. So again,
Wow.
classroom management was key,
Wow, that's unbelievable. So
right?
I'm sure you learned a lot though from those students and from trying to manage that many students in one space.
I
So
definitely did. I definitely did. Yeah.
so Dr. Newsting, what inspired you to pursue a career in your field?
So, what inspired me was the fun I remember having as
Hmm.
a K-12 learner in my physical education classes. I enjoyed all the activities my PE teachers created for me. I loved the competition that they created that I could have with others and the competition that I could have within myself. But I would say it's really the who opposed to the what that inspired me.
Hmm.
And who were all of the PE teachers from elementary, middle school, and high school. And honestly, my high school volleyball coach, who was also my high school physical education teacher, really just inspired me to want to do what they did because they always seemed like they had a lot of fun. All of us loved our PE teachers. So it was just a good, fun community to be around. And so I never really thought I would be anything else other than in the world of physical education.
So it was really your PE teachers that had that big impact on you.
Yeah, he was a PE teacher and also my volleyball coach, and he's such a cool dude. And he's a legend in the volleyball world. And I actually ended up writing my doctoral dissertation on him, which I titled Characteristics of an Effective High School Volleyball Coach, which easily translated as a physical education teacher.
Wow, that's amazing. Give us
Yeah.
now you got me interested.
Yeah.
Give us some characteristics or qualities that he portrayed or that you liked. What kind of drew you to
Yeah, and so yeah, so to be able to conduct my research on him, I first had to really justify what defines effective coaching, and we
hmm
can use the word coaching and teaching interchangeably. So,
hmm
and based on the literature, he matched the key characteristics of being an effective coach, which allowed me to do an exhaustive study on him. And so some of those elements of effectiveness are being a student-centered or an athlete-centered type of teacher
hmm
where he put the learner at the center and the focus of learning. So instead of like really top down, like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do this or tell you what to do, he really situated learning in a way where the students had to critically think, problem solve individually and collectively as a team to reach a common outcome. And he went above and beyond that of teaching life skills, another effective piece of teaching, of it's not just about the game, right? Of
Right.
whatever you're playing or whatever activity you're teaching, whether
hmm
it's games, dance, gymnastics, or something health related, it's being a caring and productive citizen in your town. So yeah, he's incredible.
That's awesome. So he really looked at the individual as a whole and tailored his teaching to that. That's great.
Definitely.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
great person.
He is. We still keep in touch today, and I consider him a friend. I mean, he honestly, him and his wife came up and visited up to me. He was in Florida. He just left and moved to Alabama to turn around that program there. But yeah, him and his wife just flew up here to spend time with us this summer. So yeah, pretty awesome.
So he's still coaching then?
He is. Yeah, he
Wow.
left.
Okay.
Yeah, he left where he was. I was actually a freshman when his first year there at the high school that I went to. I was a freshman at that high school. He kind of like recruited me, and so it was kind of like his first graduating class that he had had all 4 years. But he recently, 2 years ago, left that school in Florida and moved to Alabama to turn around the volleyball program there. So, and no doubt that he will do that because of who he is as a teacher. Yeah,
They're lucky to have him down there.
they are.
So
It's like they don't even know how good they have it.
that's awesome.
It's yeah, pretty cool.
So Dr. Neutzling,
Yep.
moving on to the university, what kind of courses do you teach at your institution?
Yeah, so I predominantly taught elementary physical education
hmm
method courses, including the introductory to the physical education major I would teach as well. I also taught kinesiology and motor learning, and I would teach classes at the graduate program level as well. So I taught a coaching course that was geared towards the coaching major master's program, as well as a course I designed called Critical Pedagogy, which is a super great class to understand like certain values, power structures, and cultural norms globally.
Critical
Yeah.
pedagogy.
Yeah, say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, I can't. I can't. This is tongue twister, my new tongue twister. So,
Yeah.
so speaking of courses, what are some essential skills that you think students need to learn, have, or develop who are going to Bridgewater State?
Specific to physical education or
Yes,
just
yes. Let's say
general?
let's
Yeah.
however you want to answer. We can say
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
I think my answer would probably apply to, I guess, all students, whether you're physical education or pursuing a different type of major. I would
mhm,
say essential skills would be just be resourceful. I'd always tell my students, listen, sadly, you are not going to retain all this information that you are
mhm.
learning throughout your academic career. But if there's one thing you can remember, are your go-to resources. And if you can, you'll be in really good shape as you move into your career. So when it's nearing the end of the summer and needing quality curriculum and best practice ideas, SHAPE is a good resource. Or if you're wanting to create meaningful, formative, and summative assessments or rubrics for like your dance unit, then ChatGPT is a good source. Yes, ChatGPT is an excellent generative AI resource for PE teachers.
So Dr. Newsting, speaking of
Yep.
ChatGPT, what are your thoughts about AI as a way to support your learners? Obviously, you've done a lot of work on
Yeah.
this, so we can answer however you like. But what are your thoughts? Like, what's go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts around that. I mean, I think AI literacy is an essential skill.
Mhm.
Answering your previous question, I would say becoming AI literate is so essential for our generation and generations to come. But gosh, the word support is such a loaded word. But due to how common generative AI has become and the administration with the executive order, which is called the Advancing Artificial Intelligence Education for American Youth, and school curriculum and teacher training, my thoughts are kind of like a double-edged sword. While I see potential benefits of AI and pre-K through 12 curriculum and AI use in the higher education level, I do see benefits if done right, such as more personalized and innovative teaching tools, improved AI literacy, and more teacher support. But the double-edged sword here, my fear is the potential risks, such a digital divide where it's not equal access to technology and AI, an over reliance on AI, and where we start to see a decline or lack thereof of critical thinking and problem solving because artificial intelligence is doing that for the teacher and for students. So I think it is also like fragile. So I think it's really, really, really important to find a safe balance, knowing when and how to rely on AI for support and when not to use AI as a support or resource.
So that was a lot of information. You talked about some of the maybe challenges, such as having over reliance, or you talk about the digital divide. Then you also mentioned the teacher support and how it can be personalized. Can you
Yeah.
can you dive a little bit more into like some examples of how you've seen it positively used at your institution?
In terms of the
Yeah,
student
yeah,
or the
uh,
faculty.
yeah. Well, however you want to answer, student or faculty, either one.
I think that for faculty, it
Mhm.
helps with being innovative with their pedagogy. So, for example, AI can really help faculty create real meaningful lessons where students are really engaged in the content. So, kind of going back to my high school volleyball coach and high school physical education teacher, putting the student at the center of learning,
Mhm.
where it's not so direct and top down. It's more it becomes meaningful when the student gets to engage in the problem or the question, whether they do that individually or they do that with others. And so AI, right, if used correctly, such as generative AI, such as our ChatGPT, which is the most commonly generative AI tool right now, you could ask it because it's an assistant, right? So faculty can use it as an assistant to help generate lesson plans or lectures where it puts the student at the heart or the center of learning. And I think that for students, especially our education students who are in teacher licensure programs, if they are in classes where faculty are using Gen AI in unique and innovative and ethical ways, then they're modeling how their future students could potentially use it in their own teacher preparation for those students. And I think the another big jump is then when those students are now into their working career, can implement technology or AI with their K-12 students.
So
So I
they're
think there's a lot
mhm.
to unpack with that. But yeah, I see a lot of benefits if used ethically and creatively. So
Can you talk, because you mentioned ethically a few times,
mhm.
and creatively, or used the right way? What would
Yeah.
be an example of what we don't want to do, just so our listeners understand, and what would be an example of a maybe an ethical or correct way to use AI? Does that make sense, my
It
question?
does.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm pausing to like really internalize that before I answer. I think that whenever you are in front of AI and it's kind of like a like kind of like a gut check. If
Mhm.
you feel like what you're doing is wrong, it's probably wrong. You probably shouldn't be using it. So if you're asked to critically think or problem solve with something, you should use nothing but yourself to be able to do that task and not rely on any source, any resource.
Mhm.
And again, that's my fear that it's becoming so normalized that the critical thinking and problem solving is start going to start to decline. And I really am fearful with our state test of the communication literacy portion of the MTEL where it's
Mhm.
all in reading and writing. So it'll be interesting to see the data in the coming years with this generation who are becoming reliant on generative AI and how they perform on reading and writing types of tests. So again, so ethically, I mean, if you're doing, I mean, cheating's cheating, right?
Mhm.
Plagiarism is plagiarism. So if you're not doing your own work, then it's a telltale sign that you probably should not be using this type of resource or any kind
Right.
of resource that way. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense what you said about the gut check, right?
Yeah.
If it feels wrong, then it probably is.
Right.
So Dr. Neusling, you've done extensive work or research with
hmm
technology integration in the use of AI in pedagogy. Can you talk a little bit more about that and elaborate?
Sure. So my journey with technology and AI really first began with a program called Immersion.
Hmm.
It's a really cool software that uses avatars. And so, gosh, this is probably 11, 12 years ago. I went to a conference, to immersion conference to learn how this works with teacher education programs and as a way to help train them specifically. And so, how I use this as a tool to help my pre service teachers specifically around classroom management and how to build relationships with their students. And my colleague and I, Dr. Karen Richardson at Bridgewater State University, we did quite a bit of extensive research regarding pre-service experiences using Immersion's mixed reality software. We published a book chapter titled Harnessing the Power of Virtual Reality, Simulation in Physical Education and Teacher Education. We've presented all over the world. One was at the Teaching Games for Understanding conference in Germany about the whole notion of suspended disbelief, which means you put a student in some type, right, in this virtual simulation
Hmm.
where they feel like, okay, these aren't real students, but they're not real students, but they feel like they're real students, but they're not real students. So they felt more inclined to be able to be more of a risk taker because they knew that these weren't real humans. They weren't going to emotionally or physically hurt them, and that we could pause the interaction between them and the avatar and we could reflect on it. And then we could talk about how can, if given the opportunity to do this experience again, what would you do differently? And so we'd have that conversation actually as a class. We would set up what was called a fishbowl, and so we would have the one student in the front of the class standing in front of the projector in front of these avatars, and myself and students were like kind of U-shaped around them, if you can kind of visualize this. And I would have these avatars present a certain kind of behavior. Maybe they're like really off task, they're not listening to my student to help them manage the classroom. And like immediately the student would like really just fall to the floor and mess up, right?
Hmm.
They'd either just like ignore the behavior when they shouldn't be ignoring the behavior. So you could see them like fumble over their words. And so we would pause that interaction between the student and the avatars, and the student could kind of just sit down and look at myself and their classmates and have a reflection and talk about, okay, so how can we address this? How can you do this better? And so once we got done talking about it, then the student felt confident of, okay, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to do this a little differently. Then we restart that interaction with the avatars and the student. And so it was a nice way of getting them just a lot of rehearsal, a lot of repractice
Hmm.
of how to do real life situations in ways that were safe and allowed them to take those risks with confidence. So
Hmm.
that was one of the pieces that we did. But I've done a lot of other things with technology, with drones and other fun, cool things like that. But
Well, I want to hear more, but I have a question about the avatars. So
yeah.
basically, the avatars, were they programmed to behave or act in a certain way to kind of see how the student would react? Is that right? Am I getting that?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it was really neat. So this program, you could set the level of compliance.
Hmm.
Let's say a level one was very compliant, and level five would be, the avatar was not compliant at all. Right.
Got
So
it.
maybe that, and so And this wasn't like a one-hit wonder with my students. We would do this periodically throughout the semester. So I could really ramp up that compliance level to closer to a 5, where it was really comfortably challenging them so that when they were in front of real students, they felt more competent and they're then therefore more confident to manage their classroom, especially with off-task behavior, all at the same time learning the importance of building meaningful relationships with each of their students.
What were some of the reactions that students had in regards to this program or this activity, this session?
Yeah, I mean, the first time that they saw this, right? So I'd have the big projector screen,
Hmm.
right, in the classroom, and I try to prepare them as much as I could. I showed them pictures and videos of what these avatars looked like,
Hmm.
but still, when they were standing in front of these avatars, they were just they they were so taken back. I mean, it was comical on my side of it to sit and watch their initial reaction of, oh my gosh, like this is pretty amazing and really cool. And they were so taken back that it was mixed reality, so it was actually live.
Hmm.
So the responses were live comments, and the avatars could see my students. So they would make comments like, "Oh, I really like your haircut," or "Hey, I really like that black Bridgewater State University polo that you're wearing." So they were just like a little freaked out that, "Oh my gosh, they can actually see me and they're responding to me in real time."
Wow.
And this was, I
Yeah.
mean, gosh, immersion, this was, like I said, like 11, 12 years ago, right? So, I mean, back then that was like pretty cutting edge.
Hmm.
So they were really, really taken back. Now I know it's not as groundbreaking with all the VR that's happening now, but at that time it was pretty powerful.
Right. There's a lot going on now, right? With you mentioned drones earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So our College of Education and Health Sciences received a grant to purchase drones. And I mean, they were not the fancy, like, $1,000 drone, but they were like equipped to be able to. How we used it was we flew it, or I flew it. I had to learn how to, I like, gosh, take this almost like an FAA test, which is crazy, to learn how to appropriately fly this drone. And so we used it indoor in the gymnasium where we recorded using the drone
Hmm.
the students playing badminton and looking at the tactical games model and their decision making. And so I would video record it and it would sync to their iPad. And
Hmm.
so, like, in the middle of play, I could like stop recording, sync it to the iPad, and then they could go off to the side and use the iPad and watch like the previous few points to see like if they were in the best spot for returning the birdie or sending the birdie. Did you put it like in open space? So they were able to evaluate gameplay
Hmm.
using the tactical games model approach to playing badminton.
So they had feedback like, in real time about how they
Yeah,
were doing. Yeah,
right.
the video doesn't lie, right? They can't say
Right, exactly.
I wasn't there. No, no.
Yeah,
This is where the birdie
exactly.
landed. This is where I was,
That's right.
and then what adjustments maybe had to be made based on the feedback that they got. So
Exactly.
that's really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
so it's pretty good.
so in your work
Hmm.
with stakeholders and other professionals, are there some common questions that you get in regards to AI?
A common question, well, the most common word I'll
Hmm.
say that I hear is plagiarism.
Okay.
At the university level, I mean,
Mhm.
faculty are really, really skeptical about implementing or allowing students to use any kind of AI, predominantly generative AI, in a classroom setting because of plagiarism. So the question is, how can I, as faculty, ensure students are doing ethical, honest work? And so, and I mean, I've heard this across the board. I served as our institution's faculty fellow for AI. And so it was a really common theme across our entire institution within every college and every major
Mhm.
that was the concern about plagiarism and making sure that students are actually doing their own work because that's the reason why they're here, right? That's
Right.
the reason why they're taking these courses and working towards earning this degree is that they are learning, right? So I listened to these comments and of rightful concern. My thoughts, it was so hard to answer answer that because it really isn't a one size fit all approach because every class and every course objective are different.
Right.
So how one faculty member can ensure honest work may not work in another class. So that's the biggest buzzword right now in higher education. And because there is no plagiarism tool that is a foolproof for students using artificial intelligence.
So there's no way to like detect it, or there's no way to, or it's very hard to. Can you explain more? Like,
Yeah, so
yeah.
if it's yeah, so let's say a faculty member has assigned a writing assignment.
Mm-hmm.
A student goes out to ChatGPT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And has ChatGPT write this essay and then submits it. There's no way of proving that that student used ChatGPT
I see.
for writing that. I mean, so
Mm,
a lot of what faculty are starting to do is handwrite. So at the beginning of the semester, I want you to actually physically write an essay, and then at the end of the
mm.
semester, if it's typed or if it's typed, the faculty can compare what their true writing style is compared to when they were able to type it. And it's pretty obvious when a student does their own work versus plagiarizing and using the help of generative AI.
That sounds like a good kind of workaround, is to compare and contrast the beginning to what they see.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, that's really smart idea.
Yeah. And some faculty are going back to the old school Scantrons. Remember those?
Oh wow, yeah, the bubble sheets and
The
stuff.
bubble. There you go. They're going back to that. Or the blue books. Do you remember the blue
Yeah, oh
books?
yeah, they're still
Yep.
using those. Wow,
There you go. Yeah. So
wow.
faculty are going back to that because that's one way of kind of strategizing to get around the plagiarism piece of AI.
Right. No, I could see how that could be a challenge. I wonder,
Yeah.
do you know of any faculty that are using it like you've described, like you mentioned the drones and the
Hmm.
immersion? Are other majors or other faculty? Do you know of anything that they're doing in regards to AI?
Yeah, so like specific with immersion, I was just at a conference in DC last week at the ASCU conference. It's the Association for State Colleges and Universities, and the symposium was on teacher shortages. And one of the presenters actually talked about how they used immersion in their institution in ways of like retention, like keeping oh, hold on, like keeping or retaining students in their programs in their classrooms.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Newsing, as we come to a close, what type
Yeah.
of, or what do you hope to see in the future? What type of goals do you have? These could be either personal or
Yeah.
professional.
I think I would love to see kind of like seeing that this isn't AI isn't a trend. I see it not going anywhere in the future. I see it actually becoming even more centralized. My goal and my hope for the future is that there is students and teachers and educators of all sort become very AI literate and how to use it in ways that are effective and ethical and understanding where that fragile line is and so that they can model in positive ways because students are right we learn so much by watching so that faculty in the higher education level and the pre-K 12 level the educators are using it responsibly in innovative ways as it definitely and has proven to do but to do so in ways that it's authentic and meaningful. So I hope that we become just really mindful and aware of its fears, and we have kind of that wisdom and the strength and courage to when to say no and when to continue to lean into it so that because we know that right critical thinking problem solving is such a skill that it's essential that we'll always have to have
Mhm.
so again leaning in AI in ways where critical thinking and problem solving is still at the focus of the teaching and learning environment.
Well said.
Yeah,
Well said.
thanks.
So, Dr. Newsling, how can our
Yeah.
listeners connect with you? Are you on his email? Are you on Blue Sky? Anything like that?
I think email is probably the best way to reach me if you have questions or want to kind of continue the conversation. Do you want me to give my email or?
Yeah, if you email to me, I'll make sure to link it
Okay.
in the show notes. And then I had you mentioned there was a book, Harnessing the Power. Was it a book or a chapter? Harnessing the
It,
Power.
yeah, is a chapter in a book, and I don't even remember the name or the title of the book, but I can get you
Oh,
that too.
yeah,
I think, yeah, but yeah, I can certainly send you that resource.
yeah. Just be curious to read that. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
So, and I'm
yeah,
sure our listeners might have questions for you
cool.
regarding what we've discussed today. So, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and expertise with us. It's really great.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Jake, for the opportunity. And I'm open to any questions or insight that anybody has.
Awesome. So, listeners, we'll have this episode uploaded soon. Please rate and share if this podcast has been helpful in supporting you in any way, as it does help other folks find it. Thank you all for listening. Have a great week, and we will be back soon.